Hi, I'm Julene. I wanted to talk to you about spring. The vernal equinox occurs today on March 20th at 5:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And what happens at spring is that's when the sun is at the eastern intersection of the ecliptic and the celestial equator. So the celestial equator is Earth's equator extended out into infinite space, and then the ecliptic is at a 23-degree and 26-minute angle from there. And the ecliptic is the path of the sun that we see in the sky. The apparent path of the sun, because of course Earth is traveling around the sun. So it's the sun's apparent path as viewed from Earth, and all of the planets will also travel along that plane. So when the sun is at that eastern intersection of the ecliptic with the equator, the celestial equator, we get the vernal equinox, the spring equinox in the northern hemisphere, and it's actually the fall equinox in the southern hemisphere. And then it climbs up to its highest north declination at summer when it hits the Tropic of Cancer on the globe. Surely you've seen a globe with the line that says equator, the Tropic of Cancer, 23 and a little less than a half degrees above there, and the same thing below with the Tropic of Capricorn. Okay, so that's the seasons, and it is the relationship of the sun to the celestial equator, which is actually the relationship between the Earth's axial tilt, which is 23 degrees and 26 minutes towards the sun. So it's our axial tilt that comes into play and makes the ecliptic be at that particular place. Anyway, so the sun also in spring is crossing into north declination. So in the north hemisphere, our days are going to start to get longer, which is awesome. The weather's going to start to warm up, and as the seasons are changing, there's changes that's happening in nature. They're also happening in our body. And the seasons have correlations to the doshas of Ayurveda. And Ayurveda is a sister science of Jyotish along with yoga, and Jyotish is Vedic astrology. So one of the things that we can do is to help tune our bodies into the season. So spring happens to be a kapha season. Okay, so why is it kapha? Kapha actually begins at the end of winter and goes into spring. There are 3 doshas and 4 seasons, so we have a bit of overlap. But kapha begins at the end of winter and through spring. So kapha is a wet time. Kapha is associated with the water element. It's associated with the classical Greek temperament of phlegmatic. Okay, so kapha is the phlegm-producing wet dosha, or part of our body, of our constitution. So in the north hemisphere, what's happening in the spring is the snow is melting, we're getting more heavy rains, the whole April showers brings May flowers, right? This is happening. So as we are leaving the winter period, right, in winter, our body, nature, first of all, nature is in a dormant period. All the leaves have fallen off the trees. There's nothing new growing. Nature is dormant, preparing for the spring. Our body, at the same time, when winter happens, the metabolism in our body slows. And we start to accumulate, our body gets ready to accumulate water in the spring, because then it's going to want to accumulate some water to help cool it down, because in the summer we're going to hit the pitta season, which is that fiery season. So our metabolism is starting to wake up and get energized when spring happens, because we're coming out of this dormant period, both biologically as much as it's happening in nature. So as the temperature outside warms up, we want to warm our body. We want to do things that warm our body and to help us shed the toxins that have accumulated in our body through the sluggishness of winter. So one of the things that we want to do to purge the toxins, bitters become really important. bitters are like bitter greens, right? Anything with a bitter taste. Bitter taste, astringent taste, pungent tastes, those are all good for spring, but especially those bitter greens. Because what bitter does is it helps with the body's natural detoxification process. It helps the liver to function. It encourages the flow of bile and purifies the bloodstream. So all of that is important for eliminating those toxins that have kind of been left over in the winter. So as nature is erupting with more green in the spring, it makes a lot of sense that, hey, we want to eat more leafy greens, especially the greens that have a detoxification effect on the body to get rid of that winter sluggish feeling that we have. So those would be examples of spinach, dandelion greens, arugula, sprouts, cabbage. Vegetables like broccoli and asparagus and peas are good. Those are all the bitter detoxifying effects. And then we have the things that we want to warm the body as well. The weather's warming, we want to warm. So things that stimulate the metabolism and the digestive fire and warm the body are spices in our foods like cinnamon, cloves, ginger, onions, peppers. Turmeric is another good all-around spice. Turmeric promotes healthy digestion. It's also an antioxidant, and it's an antimicrobial, and it has antibacterial products. Okay, so turmeric is awesome. So we want to do these leafy greens for the detoxifying and the green vegetables, and we want to do the warming spices, and also we want to have warm food and warm beverages. Now, if you're tuning in from the South Hemisphere and you're going into autumn, then you're going to want to cook the greens. And the vegetables that you're going to want are the root vegetables. The vada is it's a fall season. Vada dosha goes with the fall season. And the fall season can be very drying. So cooking the greens to make them wetter is one of the things that you want to do. And as far as the spices go, the warming spices are good for fall as well. But you want to have more salt in your diet to help the body retain more fluids as it goes into the drying season. Okay, so that part there was for the South. Okay, cook the greens in the South and have root vegetables. In the Northern Hemisphere, the bitter greens, you can have, raw green salads, and those vegetables that are broccoli and asparagus and peas. Okay, and warm foods good for both hemispheres. Now, one of the important things that we want to do, and this again is going to be for both hemispheres, is we want to eat less dairy. We want to eat less sugars because we don't want to aggravate the kapha. Number one, because if you are in the North Hemisphere and you're going into spring, you're coming out of that heavy winter time where your body has, stored fat and, everything. That's what it does. That's what the body wants to do in winter. It wants to store fat and keep us warm, right? And kapha is a heavy thing, right? So we want to avoid dairy. We want to avoid sugar. Things, like that will encourage the sluggishness of kapha to continue and the sluggishness of winter to continue and aggravate the kapha. So we don't want to do that. So bad idea for the spring is to eat smoothies made of yogurt and berries. Okay, that's good for the summer when we want to, cool down, but it's not so good for the spring when we want to heat up and we want to kind of get away from that kapha. And the dairy products are definitely, they aggravate the kapha dosha. It's better to have a green juice smoothie and eat dried fruits. Now, as the fruits become seasonally available in your area, that's telling you that it's time to eat them. This is why eating locally grown foods and everything are good for you. Number one, it has the bright pollens for the allergies and, those types of things. But number two is when the food is ripe and ready in your environment, your body is ready for it. Nature gives us everything we need. And paying attention and eating the foods and fruits and vegetables that are in season, that's just tuning your body to nature. They come in season at that time because of their Ayurvedic properties, or they have those Ayurvedic properties because they come into being at that time. Whatever it is, there is a symbiotic connection there. So, there's good ideas to have for breakfast, like chapati bread or granola that has honey and cinnamon, so you can have a little bit of sweet but not too much. It's the natural sweet, and locally grown honey is always even better, and the cinnamon is a warming food. Now in the South Hemisphere, you also want to avoid the dairy products because you're going to be heading into winter, right? So you don't want to pack on too much of the dairy right as the metabolism is slowing down and everything. So and by the end of, by the fall season, apples are pretty much about the only fresh fruit. So you could do dry fruit, but you want to moisten it because remember it's dry. So that's for the South. Now, as far as grains go that are good for the spring season, brown rice, barley, quinoa, millet, and corn are good choices to balance our kapha. Now, of course, we have to be careful with corn because of all of the GMOs and everything, but, but that aside, those are good. Wheat and oats actually aggravate kapha, so you want to cut down on your wheat and oats. So have a whole grain bread instead of a wheat bread. If you're eating oats, you don't want a warm oatmeal. You want the granola, because believe it or not, by drying and heating the oats to turn them into granola, we're getting rid of the kapha, right? And this is what we're trying to do in our body, right? We are heating up our body to get rid of the excess kapha from the winter going forwards. That will help us get rid of our extra sniffles, which I have. So it's that time of year, right? So we want to kind of get rid of that. You kind of can tell that your kapha is aggravated anytime you have the sniffles because it's the phlegmatic dosha, remember. Now in the Southern Hemisphere, going into winter, warm oatmeal is fine because you're entering a different season. It's wet and you're trying to counteract the drying. Okay. Another thing we want to do is if you eat meat, eat leaner meats and definitely avoid those heavy oily fishes because the oily food also aggravates kapha. You can get proteins from lentils. You can actually go on Google, and I encourage everybody to do this, and do a search for spring kachari recipes. Okay, and kachari is spelled K-I-T-H. No, it's not. It's spelled K-I-T-C-H-A-R-I. K-I-T-C-H-A-R-I. And kachari is a dish that has rice and lentils in it. So you're getting your protein from the dal or the lentils, and vegetables and spices are added to it based on the season or based on the dosha or based on what you're trying to cleanse here. What is this detox for? So if you do a spring detox, you're going to get recipes that help to balance that kapha dosha, and they're going to be warming spices and vegetables that are good. You could also at any time figure out what your dosha is and look at kachari recipes for your own dosha. So there are many quizzes online where you could find that out. There's so many, and they all ask different questions, but they're all similar questions. So I usually, recommend taking a couple of them and making sure you're getting, the same answers or seeing. Now, a lot of times you're probably going to wind up being bidoshic. It's rare for someone to have like a dominant one dosha, and it's rare for someone to be balanced between all three. Most people are bidoshic, so you're going to have a major and a secondary as your two primary doshas. No dosha is good or bad. It's just this is your body's homeostasis. So I also recommend taking the test, each test twice. Once to answer usually. This is how my body normally functions usually when everything's going well. And then take it again for how do you feel right now, because that's going to let you know if one of your doshas is aggravated. because then you'll see different answers. So you're taking the first test normally because that is going to be your baseline. This is where your body is at homeostasis when everything is running fine. That's your unique constitution. And then when you take it when you have a cold or when you have a fever or, then obviously, right, your kapha or your pitta is going to go. Or if your skin's really dry and, then maybe your vata's up. But, take it as normal so you have a baseline of what you're supposed to be. And then take it as now so that you can see what is out of balance in your own body. And you can always adjust the Kachari recipes to help get your body back into balance. So they're actually really cool things to go Google and look up and find the ones that you like. Of course, in the Southern Hemisphere, Google them for the autumn. And in the North Hemisphere, Google them for, spring detox Kachari. Also, some of the things that we want to do for the spring is to heat the body. We actually want to heat it physically, heat our muscles. Something else that's happening in our body is it's building up strength and endurance. So this is where you get the most bang for your buck physiologically, working out at the gym. And if you have a good workout at the gym and then you go jump in a sauna, that's really going to help with the detox because you'll sweat out some of those toxins. The thing is a lot of us try to start these diets, on New Year's Day. Our body's in the fat storing mode, and here we are trying to exercise and lose the fat, right? So it's the wrong time of the year. We're not living Ayurvedically doing that. But if we, this is the best time to start a diet, start eating healthy, start doing your exercise program, because your body is now in the mode where its natural process at spring is to detox and to build your strength and endurance. If working out at the gym isn't your thing, walk. Just get outside, walk in nature. No matter which hemisphere you're in, get outside and walk, because either you're trying to kick your metabolism back up from being slow in the winter and get some exercise going, or you're starting to go into, in the Southern Hemisphere, you're starting to go into longer nights. Your days are getting shorter, your daylight's going away, and it's really important to catch that daylight because it helps with your mood. You can also Google yoga for detox, get some, there's videos all over the place about, different people doing their take on a good detox session with yoga poses. So, that's something you can do and, see which ones you like. But whatever the season is, it's equally important to get outside, breathe in the fresh air, and take time really to revel in the beauty of the nature that's unfolding and changing around you, whether it's spring erupting in all the greenery or whether it's the fall, putting all those brilliant reds and oranges and yellows in the trees, whatever it is, just feel that change of the season. Have a connection with, the changes that are happening in your body as the changes that are happening in nature. And let that change in nature invigorate and motivate you to make good choices for your body in its seasonal shift as well. Happy spring or autumn, wherever you are. Namaste.